about 3 weeks ago, we presented One Safe Houston plan. In that plan, we're adding 125 police officers per day through overtime program. Uh, but the main thing that we wanted to emphasize is that we're also adding boots on the ground, adding to the police force, the number of police officers. And today in Class 252, we have now graduated 61 police officers that are now being added to the police force. That is the first of 5 cadet classes that are already budgeted within our city's budget. There will be other classes coming. So we'll be adding more police officers to the force, just like we did today. So between the 125 police officers that have been added per day on our streets through overtime, if you combine that number with the number that graduated today, you're looking at what, 186 police officers in terms of more boots on the ground in the city of Houston just in the last 3 weeks alone. And so I'm very pleased with that, and we'll continue to add more to the force as they graduate through the cadet classes. And the other announcement that I wanted to make is that over the last several months, we've been negotiating with HPOU, the police officers, in terms of their contract. We have reached an agreement with them through the meet and confer, which will be coming to City Council for the council members for their review and approval. In that contract, it's a 3-year contract with the police officers in terms of their pay. It's a 3-year contract. In the first year, they'll be getting an added pay of 4%. The second year will be 3%, and the third will be 3.5%. In essence, a 2.5% pay raise over the next 3 years. And when you include the special pay, the cost of this contract over a 3-year period will be about $125 million to the Houston police officers. The point I want to underscore is that not only are we adding more police, not only are we utilizing more technology, but we're also making commitment to their pay. And one of the particular items is the additional pay to the officers on the street. That is being increased significantly. Because they are the ones that are out there, they are the ones that are facing these suspects, these criminals. And so we certainly wanted to recognize their service to the police department. So that meet and confer contract all parties have signed off on it. The police officers, I think that it was approved by 65-70% by the police officers, and that will be going to City Council very shortly. So those are the two things that I wanted to highlight today. Adding more boots on the ground by cadets that are now police officers, as evidenced by today, and then the meet and confer, which we are increasing the pay of those who are now police officers in the city of Houston over the next 3 years, a 10.5% pay raise. The other point, there was one particular item that I know was very sensitive that came up through the police reform, and that was a revision to the 180-day rule. A 180-day rule as it currently stands from the time the incident occurred, but there was a recommendation from the task force, Mayor's Task Force on Police Reform, to change that to make it from the time that it was discovered. That is also has been changed, so it's now 180 days from the time of discovery. So with all of that having taken place, I'm very pleased what's coming forth. Very pleased what we'll be presenting to the members of City Council for their approval. Having said that, let me now yield to Chief Fenner.
Hey, Mayor, I just want to say quickly, thank you for the support in our council members. So it's important to know that this administration has been very supportive in putting more officers out on the street. We do face retirements, and we don't control that sometimes, but this administration has been very intentional in doing everything that they can to put more officers on the street, and I'm very proud of that. Also, our contract, and I know it has to be approved by a council. There are some issues in there that I'm very proud of, and I think it's a good contract, and it's something that our officers can stand by. I think it was 70-some% approved it, Mayor, and we're just ready to move forward. Thank y'all.
Any questions or comments, please? Yes, ma'am.
I don't think that we drop requirements. I think that you have to be smart. One thing that we added was a life experience and I'm very proud of that. If you got a young man or young woman who family is struggling and they go and work for UPS, and I'm just saying just any agency or any organization for 5 years, and they do an outstanding job, and then after 5 years and they say, well, look, I want to be a police officer. Well, no, you don't have college, you don't have military, so we put in 3 years of good work history at one job. That should be included, so we did. So I don't think that that's dropping any, standards or anything. It's just us being smart and making sure that we have a pool where we can be diverse like our city. All right? No, we did that before. We did it before. The main thing is you want to get good people, and Chief and the chiefs before me, we want hearts. And if you got good people with good hearts, just because they don't have college, now we do support college. We do support military. But there's different paths, and we shouldn't be passing up good people that want to serve in our city. So that's really what it was behind. Thank you.
And then let me just add that in all of our departments across the city, we're looking for employees. It's not just police, it's fire, it's municipal workers, it's in public works, and that's happening all over. We're looking for people. Well, they are certainly, with this one now being finished, we're now turning to the next one. And the reality is, I mean, when I look at this class, 252, I mean, we're pulling people from New York, from New Jersey, from California, from Ohio. Councilmember Knox and I were joking, from Dallas.
Dallas is actually in Oklahoma, right?
So, I mean, people are coming from all over that find the Houston Police Department very attractive. And so what we are trying to do, number one, is to demonstrate that this city is committed to our law enforcement. We are committed to making sure that they have everything that they need to do their jobs and to be safe. Because, number one, we want them to be safe and want them to return home. So we want to give them the tools that they need, whether it's in technology. We want to provide that. Whether it's in terms of pay, we want to provide that. All of the necessary incentives, we are doing that. So the commitment is very real. But let me yield, because Doug and Ray are now here, and they are over HPOU, so they can certainly speak to the meet and confer agreement and how it's being received.
And I love them, but I'm finna get in here with our family to take some photos. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for having us out today.
Thanks, Doug.
We had our membership meeting, so we rushed over here as quick as we could. Thank you all for showing up. And I want to thank the Mayor and City Council for what they have done. They have done a phenomenal job trying to make sure we get as many people into the seats as we can. The main thing we have here is we need more boots on the ground. The Mayor's committed to 6 classes a year, which is about all we can run at the time. So we want to thank them for that. This contract, I think it's fair to us and the city. I think at the end of the day, it's going to help our officers feel appreciated, because at the end, that's what we really need here. Our officers, the morale is obviously low with things going on around this country, but we're building it up. And these officers have done a phenomenal job going out there every day, working hard to keep the people of Harris County safe, even though we have issues with the courts. We know the backlog. We know the issue with judges. And I think our latest vote the other day was very clear where we stand on crime in this city. It's going to be taken seriously. And with the mayor's leadership and city council's help, we're going to continue to do that. So I want to thank y'all both for being here. And thanks to city council. And thank y'all for showing up. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. Oh, it is difficult. It really is. There's no denying that. Young people today see the opportunities, and where we had a passion for it before, sometimes you lose that when you're starting to look at a job where a lot of times you're vilified for just doing your job. So it is difficult to get these young people in But we are our recruiting is doing a great job trying to get folks in. And again, you have to have a passion for this. You have to want to serve your community. That's why we are always reaching out to military. We're reaching out to college kids. We're reaching out to anybody we can. Anybody that lives in the city of Houston and needs a job, come see us. We're hiring. The doors are open. We need all the help we can get. And it takes you standing up for your own community sometimes to help with that. Once somebody from the neighborhood comes in, others will come too. And that's what we ask. Everybody that's looking for a job, come on down.
Mayor, question. What's being done to get more Spanish-speaking officers to join the forces?
Well, I think if you saw the class today, 252 is highly, highly diverse. I mean, you had those Hispanics that are part of this class, African Americans, women, Asian that are part of this class, whites. So class 252, when I looked out at these 61 officers now, I saw the diversity of the city of Houston on full display. So a lot of community engagement, outreach, not just in the city of Houston, but throughout the country, inviting and encouraging people to be police officers with HPD.
Does the fear prevail in between the people that would like to join HPD? The fear constant?
Well, I think, look, being a police officer is inherently dangerous. It is a dangerous job. No one police officer knows what the officer will be facing when they get out on the street and they have to deal with those circumstances. So it is an inherently dangerous job. It is incumbent upon the city of Houston to give the police department and the men and women in blue all the tools that they need and the resources they need to be safe and to do their job effectively. And we are committed to doing that. And that's why with this particular meet and confer contract that has to be approved by City Council, I mean, you're looking at $125 million in terms of the pay raise and the special pay. When you combine the two together, that's the total sum over a 3-year period.
I know there's several more cadet classes coming up.
Yes.
Now, numbers-wise, as far as officers go, you're just barely over where you were last year. Can you talk about how worried are you that it is tough to fill the stores?
Well, I know, but factually, there are some things that we need to lay the predicate for. For example, when I came in as mayor some 6+ years ago in January of 2016, there were 1,900 police officers that were eligible to retire out of roughly 5,100. That's more than 1/3 of your force that was eligible to retire. We've been able to reduce that number. So we are very fortunate that police officers who are eligible to retire have not all left at the same time, and that's a big plus. Now the goal is to be on the plus side, that as they retire, you're bringing in more and more, and you're building then a younger force that's not so eligible to retire so soon. So that's going to take some time. You're not gonna overdo that. I mean, reverse that overnight. I think right now there may be about 1,400 instead of 1,900, about 1,400. So that will have to go down over time. Now, what we have done is that we've addressed the pension woes that existed 6+ years ago. So the pension system, and I think Ray and Doug can certainly speak to this, is sounder now than it has been over the last since 2001. Let me put it that way. Providing the added pay, I think, will help out, making sure that our police officers are competitive with other police departments, and in some cases even put them in a better position. The special pay, for example, the additional dollars we're providing to the officers on the street, I think that will help out. And then helping to create an atmosphere of appreciation and respect. I think that's very important. I think people want to know whether or not the city is fully supportive of their police officers, and that's something you have to work on every single day. But I think that's being demonstrated as well. So it takes all of us working together. But I'm very appreciative to every single police officer that could retire, but they're electing to stay on just a little bit longer to give us more time to bring more police officers on board. Yeah.
Real quick question. So, when you did your commission to look at sort of criminal justice reforms,
Yes.
there's a great deal of concern issue a few months ago. How did you handle that?
Well, you had the mayor's task force put forth their recommendations. We pretty much followed the same structure that we have followed in the city of Houston over years and years in contract negotiations, and pretty much the same structure that I've followed in negotiating with other union groups as well. So we have made a modification in the 180-day rule. That was one of the big items. So we've made a modification in that sense. The added training, that's being provided. The community engagement, that's taking place. So all those different measures we have already put into practice, and are putting and moving forward on.
And there's it looks like perhaps a collapse of two different civil service commissions. I don't know if that's you or Doug that could speak to that. Could someone explain that, please?
I'm not familiar with what
We
he's
just
talking
collapsed them in.
about.
We had a separate one for police, and all we did was simply collapse them into one. So now it's Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. It's not a huge change. Most of our big disciplinary cases go to independent hearing examiners, not to civil service. But this was just a way to consolidate things to make sure that we were able to get a quorum whenever we need to go to civil service, and not have to take every single person appointed to civil service in order to fill our classes. So there was nothing in there. Both sides agreed to it that it was just a smart thing to do to consolidate the two commissions.
And was there also a change in perhaps promotion, something that involves the Independent Police Oversight Board?
Yeah, so in our last contract, we had in there that said that for the component of commanders, that we would try to put some additional component in there. Of course, the city wanted more points given by the police chief. We didn't want that. We came to an agreement that we would have the whoever is the test developer to come in and speak to the head of the Independent Police Oversight Board, the head of the Office of Inspector General, the chiefs, and the union to see exactly what this community needs in order to develop what types of exercises you're going to give to those potential commanders before they get promoted. So that was put in this contract.
So, sorry, I'm still a little unclear. So the IPOB and the Office of Inspector General will have more input into.
To what types of exercises the test giver is going to give to potential commanders.
And then two quick clarifications for you, Ray. Chief Fenner had talked about how in addition to military service and a bachelor's degree, HPD is now considering professional years of service. How many years of professional ability does a person have to have, and when did that change happen?
It's happened in the last contract, actually, and we kept it. This is something that the city brought to us and said we want people who are out there working in full-time jobs to be able to have a potential to be a police officer. My brother's never been to college in his life, been a police officer 35 years. He was a high school graduate, had a full-time job. So 2 of your last 3 years of full-time work experience can substitute for the college.
And either you or Doug, because I talked to Doug about this in the past, especially after the 3 officers were shot in January. When was the last time somebody came to HBOU to talk about them wanting to leave because of violence or officers being vilified?
We do have 1 or 2 persons a month that come in, especially the young officers that say this just isn't for me. But we also have a lot of young officers. My nephew's a police officer. My cousin's a police officer. They're both very young, and they still like to get out there and put bad guys in jail. So there's still a lot of folks out there that want to do it, but it's difficult. I used to be able to recruit waiters or people at the car wash that were working there that I saw were hustling the job that they're doing to try to come to the police department. Unfortunately, when I say it now, they're like, that's probably not for me. But let me just say this. There is not a major city in this country that the police department has the support of the mayor and council, not one, except for the city of Houston. So although our morale is very low, it's nowhere compared to those folks that know that the police chief, the mayor, and the council don't have your back. I would not want to be a police officer right now in Austin, Texas, for example. I just don't think that they have their back. We have that here in Houston, and we're very fortunate to have that.
And then lastly, what I would say, my godson who finished college, but decided to be a police officer, and he was in this class 252. So there are people who certainly want to be police officers. What I would say, for people out there, just turn off social media outside the city of Houston, and just look at the social media in the city of Houston. Then everybody would want to be a police officer. But we are impacted by what happens nationally, unfortunately. Okay, thank you so very, very much.
Can I ask one quick question, sir? I know that we've talked about this ad nauseum, but this year, I think year to date, homicides are up 24%. Just addressing that as the new cadets come in, I mean, what more can we do because it's a daily battle at this point?
Well, it's always a daily battle. That's why we got One Safe Houston. It is a very holistic, comprehensive plan. A part of that is putting more boots on the ground physically. That's what's happening with 252. And I would say these cadets, these 61, they are excited. We were talking about just looking into their eyes. So they're excited. More overtime, putting police officers on the ground, 125 per day. So we're doing that. Technology, that's very, very important. Working with all of our law enforcement agencies is critically important. Getting the community involved, working through Crime Stoppers, all of those things will take place. But this is the first. Pretty much, we just finished the first 2 months. We've got 10 months to go. Let's see where things go as we move forward. But no plan is going to reverse things overnight. But let me tell you, if we didn't have a holistic plan, then we would simply be reactive. The good news is that we have a plan to work from, and we're moving forward to implementing it. And I will tell you, people from all over the country asking us about it. I know I'll be testifying before a congressional hearing on next week when they heard about the One Safe Houston plan, and then we have been invited to go to D.C. On the 14th, along with some other mayors, to talk specifically about the One Safe Houston plan. So it's been well received. Okay. March 14th. Okay. And then next week will be before the congressional hearing. In fact, Mayor Adams of New York and myself and maybe one or two others will be before the congressional committee. Okay. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Doug. Thanks. Right.
Good job.